All right.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Winter Park Library. This is the Winter Park City Commission Candidate Forum. Just a couple of housekeeping things before I turn it over to Daniel.
I don't think it's on.
Is it on? Check.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Welcome to the Winter Park Library, everyone. Welcome to the Winter Park City Commission Debate Forum. Just a couple of housekeeping things before I turn it over to Daniel. If you guys need the restrooms, go up to the top of the steps and take a left around the front desk. And we also ask that you silence your cell phones. My name is Gary. I'm the head of public services at the Winter Park Library. And we just wanted to thank the Winter Park Youth City Council for putting this on. And I will turn this over to Daniel, who will explain a little bit more about the debate format. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Winter Park City Commission Candidate Forum. My name is Daniel Isaac, and I am honored to be here tonight on behalf of the Winter Park Youth City Council. We did create a survey about the future development of Winter Park. So if you look to the left or you look to the right, we do have a survey we would like for you to fill out. First and foremost, I want to extend a huge thank you to the Winter Park Library for allowing us to host this event in such a wonderful space. Their commitment to fostering a civic engagement and community discussion is invaluable, and we truly appreciate their support in making tonight possible. This forum is an opportunity for all of us to engage directly with the candidates running for Winter Park City Commission, Kris Cruzada and Justin Vermuth, and as well as Commissioner-elect Warren Lindsey. We will begin with a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate. After that, we'll move into the main portion of the forum, where candidates will answer questions both from the Youth City Council and the audience. Each candidate will have 2 minutes per response. Finally, we will conclude with a 2-minute closing statement, and we will have everyone please hold the applause for later because we will have a rousing round of applause at the end. And a timekeeper will keep track of time, and he will raise cards when there's a minute left, 30 seconds, and stop. And candidates flipped a coin to determine who gives the first and opening statement, and the other candidate will give the last closing statement. We will now begin with our first opening statement from Commissioner Kris Cruzada.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Again, I am Kris Cruzada. I'm seeking re-election to the Winter Park City Commission Seat 3. I've enjoyed serving all the citizens and residents of Winter Park and working alongside our city staff to preserve our quality of life. 3 years ago, I pledged a platform that is still relevant today. My pledge was to protect our physical assets and quality of life through compliance with our comp plan, city code, future land use maps, and zoning classifications. Achieve city goals for environmental protection, sustainability, resiliency, and zero carbon emissions. Maintain or increase our reserves while keeping tax rates low, trimming costs, and finding new sources of revenue. And support our arts and culture through community partnerships. In the last 3 years, the Commission and I have accomplished a few objectives of my pledge. The city has green-lighted development that has followed the comp plan. A few of them are the Enclave on Lakemont Avenue to redevelop the Disciples of Christ Church, Winter Park Commons to develop Patmos Chapel near Webster Avenue and Capon Avenue. For our environment, we have continued to score high marks for lake water quality. We enacted a sustainability action plan to attain goals for clean power supply. And we are continuing undergrounding our electrical grid. Physically, we have a balanced budget. We have not raised our millage rate and expanded and extended the CRA to assist in the infrastructure costs in the CRA district. Additionally, we have earned a few high marks for some of our bonds. Lastly, the city has assisted in obtaining TDT funding for Rollins College Art Museum and Winter Park Playhouse. In the last 2 years, the city has focused on infrastructure. In 2023, we enacted a transportation master plan, and last year, a stormwater plan based on our recent stormwater basin study. Moving forward, I want to continue to work with my pledge and humbly ask you to re-elect me to the City Commission, Seat 3.
Next would be Mr. Vermuth.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for inviting me today. Um, it's wonderful that your organization exists. You are the future leaders of this city, and I hope you know that, and I hope you take that seriously. Every single morning, I wake up to 3 future voters. My children are ages 5, 8, and 10. That's why I'm sitting here today. Not a minute goes by where I don't think about those children and creating a better future for them. And it's our hope that one day they will choose to make Winter Park their home. A little bit about me. I know I'm new up here. I grew up not far from here geographically in a place called Mico, Florida, over on the Space Coast. Geographically, it may not be far, but socioeconomically, it's really a different world. It's not a sad story. I came from nothing. A loving home. We just didn't have a lot, and very early on, I learned to do a lot with a little. At the age of 8, I began volunteering in my community, much like many of you. And 10 years later, that same community lifted me up and provided me a full scholarship to the University of Florida. I graduated and got a job in finance. I put myself through law school at night while working full time. It's a similar story for my wife. She grew up in Castleberry and became an elementary school teacher. We both aspired to live in a place like Winter Park and build our life here. Winter Park's an aspirational place. We hope our children will appreciate that and come back here as well. But for that to happen, I believe we need to make some immediate changes in city government. If you're like me and if you've read all 67 pages of the budget, you'll know that everything is not going well fiscally. Decisions are being made that will make it more difficult for young people to be able to afford a house here. Decisions that I will cover more in the question portion, but I see I'm getting red light. So thank you, and thanks for the opportunity.
Next is going to be Commissioner-elect Lindsey with his speech.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody that's here, and it's particularly the young. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. Well, good evening. Thank you very much for having me here. Justin, Kris, you all did a great job there. My name's Warren Lindsey. I'm very honored to soon be commissioner for Winter Park. I love Winter Park. Just briefly, my background as just like Justin and Kris, I'm a practicing attorney. I've lived in the same house in Winter Park since 1990. I have 3 children that all went to Winter Park schools and graduated from Winter Park High School. I love Winter Park, and I'm learning by talking to people and continue until I get sworn in on March 26th about the issues that face Winter Park. I think Winter Park is in very strong fiscally good condition right now. I think the city commission, all the 4 commissioners and Mayor DeCiccio have done a very outstanding job. I think that all the city commissioners and the mayor, as I do, share a love for Winter Park and a fervent desire to keep the culture, the quality of life in Winter Park as wonderful as it is, and when possible, to make improvements. I share the importance of us maintaining our lakes, our parks, as has been a Winter Park tradition over the decades. And when I'm on the city commission, I pledge that I'll do that. One of the things, because it's expensive to live, what I'm going to ask the city commission to do is to have a voluntary committee to look at not only what our millage rate is, but how that converts to capita benefits that our citizen has. Because even though our millage rate has stayed the same, because we're fortunate, our property values have gone up, that our taxes are going up. But I look forward to talking to people and learning more. And thank you very much for having me here today.
Thank you all for those little introduction speeches.
Just for a quick little introduction from us, my name is Sophia. I'm the secretary of the Winter Park Youth City Council.
And I'm Lily Stallman. I'm the Vice President of the Winter Park Youth City Council. So our first question is going to go to Commissioner Cruzada, and then you two will have a chance to respond if you would like. So first is, what inspired you to run for commissioner?
So public service has always been in my blood through student council in high school, through student government at UCF, and then taking voluntary appointed positions with Civil County Housing Authority, Catholic Charities, and Orange County Development Advisory Board. And for me, it's always improving upon where we've been as a community, adding my 2 cents of what my perceptions have been growing up in the area. I was born in 1973 at the VA hospital. And so over the last 50 odd years, you can imagine the amount of growth that we've had. And so when I talked with residents, young and old, they often go to the topic of development, overdevelopment. And so making myself useful in that capacity to be in public service, to listen to all of the arguments and all the concerns, I think I'm a good processor of information to know where we can go as a community and make myself available, good and bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, it can go to Mr. Vermuth.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. You heard my story. I grew up in city government. It lifted me up, gave me opportunities that I wouldn't have had as a young child. I've tried to pay that forward as much as I can. I have 3 young children and a demanding job, and my wife works out of the home as well. So, you do as much as you can with the time that you have. And so I've served as chairman of the Orange County Industrial Development Authority. I chair the City of Winter Park Lakes and Waterways Board. Public service is something that's very important to me. And the reason I got into this race was some of the things that I've observed as a citizen. I believe we can do better as a city, frankly. And this isn't a Make Winter Park Great Again campaign. Everybody in this room knows that Winter Park is a great place to live. We have incredible God-given natural beauty here, and that will always be the case. It will always be a great place. This is a We Can Do Better campaign, and I feel that if we can do better as a city, we should do better. If we can do better with the budget, if we can do better with the way we treat our residents, if we can do better about the way we engage the community and city government and getting people involved and bringing city government to them, then I think we'll be much stronger as a community.
Thank you, Mr. Vermuth. Finally, we're going to go to Commissioner-elect Lindsey.
Thank you. I've got involved more recently. I've been serving on the Winter Park Planning and Zoning Board now for 2.5 years, which has been a very interesting experience because the Planning and Zoning Board sort of puts together and encompasses pretty much all the other aspects of how the city works in terms of architecture, in terms of landscape design, in terms of traffic, in terms of how it relates to other parts of the city. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. As Justin and Kris just both said, my children have lived here. They grew up here. And I think Winter Park is a wonderful place. Winter Park is a city that the residents deserve not average services, not above average services, but extraordinary services. And that is my goal in all aspects of my service when I began my mission term. Thank you.
Thank you for those responses. I'm going to turn it over to Sophia now.
Okay, so now this is going to be our second question, and this is going to start with Commissioner-elect Lindsey. As we move into 2025, new proposals have been made to improve the city's infrastructure. How do you plan to make sure that those blueprints adequately address traffic concerns and roads?
Great question. Well, just before I think Kris and Justin and I came here, we were across the way over at the Civic Center, and they were having kind of a public forum about 426, which is Aloma. And anybody that's driven, that roadway knows that it needs some improvements. That is something that's very important to me, and I know it will be very important going forward with the commission. I think we have a situation where we have a more aging infrastructure that we have to address and budget for and take care of, including the roads and other things. Recently at a planning and zoning board meeting, we had asked for information on the number of sewer houses and buildings with sewer versus septic tanks. And I was astonished that a very significant portion of the city is still on septic tanks, and that the septic tanks are in many areas pretty close to lakes and waterways. But the question is good because as Winter Park ages, we need to address the infrastructure. And during my term, I think that will be something that the city commission and my part of it will be looking at.
Thank you for that speech. The next is going to be Mr. Vermuth.
So we have a great product here in Winter Park. People want to be here, they want to live here, they want to work here, they want to play here. So traffic is always going to be an issue. And so I think we need to realize that, first of all. Then we need to look at traffic holistically. And so I feel like, some of the decisions that have been made recently, for example, the light on Cortland and others, we've taken kind of a ready, fire, aim approach, which is the wrong one. If it's, you think of traffic like a balloon, if you choke off one point, then Waze and, Google Maps, all the other traffic services are going to route you, the quickest way. And that might be through a neighborhood where children are playing, um, you know, roads that aren't made to have that level of traffic. So when we sit down and tackle traffic in one issue, we really need to look at the whole system and not just take a kind of one-off approach that we've taken in the past. And um, I believe that some on the commission agree with that. And when I'm on the commission, that is what we'll do, and we'll tackle traffic, but it will be a comprehensive approach.
Thank you. The last speech will be from Commissioner Cruzada.
Thank you very much. So transportation and infrastructure, to me, well, I'll just say this. In 2023, we passed a transportation master plan that would spend 140 million over 20 years. That's $7 million a year just on transportation. And when you go to Orange County government, you see what their city or county planners are doing. They've pretty much almost taken a nihilistic approach to it. Like the amount of traffic, the depth of traffic, and the volume of traffic is a deterrent in and of itself. And this is on our periphery. And so they're building apartments with 25 units per acre, 50 units per acre, and they're piling people in, and they're utilizing 426. They're utilizing our major corridors to get to and from downtown Orlando, to the other side of town, and it's causing us frustration. In planning for traffic, I think we need to take an approach of what is the purpose of what we're trying to do? Is it to benefit our community, or is it to move people faster through our city? And so when you talk with residents, it's about safety. It's about trying to make sure that benefits the community instead of ripping it apart. And so when we take these approaches, I think we get the best outcome that we can. I think the worst thing that can happen in situations of trying to solve difficult problems is the cynicism, apathy, and nihilism that comes with it. And when we start to go down that path, when we say, oh, there's nothing that can be done, we start to rip apart that social contract that we have with one another. We're neighbors. We know each other. Our kids play together. There is a solution. We just got to find the right solution. And, we reassess. We reassess after we make a decision 10 years, 20 years down the road. Is it working? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that speech. This next question is going to start off with Mr. Vermuth. How would you promote and protect Winter Park's art and culture scene as the city continues to grow?
Well, as I said before, Winter Park is a place where, at least, my family, and I think many of the families that I talk to, is where you want to live, work, and play. And so, we often find ourselves, when we're looking for restaurants, entertainment. I mean, we don't really leave the city limits much. And I think that's a good thing. And I think most residents feel that way too. And the arts is a big part of that. I think, we need to be deliberate in what organizations we support and be careful with especially residents and taxpayers what we use their money on. I think as government we need to be good stewards of that, and so we need to look at the history and some organizations and their credit worthiness and opportunities to be able to deliver on some of the promises that they make when we're listening to them when we're sitting on the dais. So I wholeheartedly believe that it's an important part of our community. We just need to be careful and deliberate about um, which organizations we support.
Thank you for that speech. Next, it's going to go to Commissioner-elect Lindsey.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the arts and culture of Winter Park are kind of the heart of Winter Park. We have Rollins, we have just when you go down any street, since the first time I ever came to Winter Park, I walked down Park Avenue and many years ago, and it just took my breath away. I think that the arts, the culture of Winter Park are a central part of Winter Park, and one of the things that make it such a wonderful place to live. And while I'm on the commission, I will promote those things with partnerships with Rollins, with the museums, with the Park Avenue Association, and with the Chamber of Commerce. We have the Christmas, the Bach Festival. We have the Christmas festival in the park. We have the Winter Park Christmas Parade. I mean, we live in a Norman Rockwellian, type of a city that is just wonderful and wonderful to live in. So I think it's our responsibility as as the city commission to promote, to support, to foster, and when it's appropriate to help grow and to energize us with the arts and the museums and all the wonderful things like that we have in our beautiful city.
Thank you so much. Finally, it's going to go to Commissioner Cruzada.
Thank you.
Of course.
So, in expanding arts and culture within the city of Winter Park, we definitely have to partner with the nonprofits that are the uh, the bulk of most art community. So art is not a profit center, unfortunately. You can't invest in art. Well, you can invest in art, but the return is not measured in the dollars of profit. It's measured in the appreciation we have for it. Refines us to be more intuitive with each other and more neighborly to each other. Um, just these past over the past year, the city has worked with the tourist development tax to bring in the Rollins College Art Museum money so that Rollins College can display its art. Almost 90% of their art, unfortunately, is kept in boxes uh, on the Rollins College campus and not able to be displayed unless they went down this path. And it's a benefit to us as a city. And then on top of that, we have worked with Winter Park Playhouse. We had heard almost a year and a half ago they were going to lose their lease. And a lot of the live theater and musical that a lot of the residents and a lot of the surrounding residents go to would be gone. And so there was an initiative taken, and they also earn tourist development tax dollars from Orange County to help fund the purchase of it so they can have a permanent location. We have to be able to team up with these nonprofits and work on a case by case basis to make sure that what they're proposing and what we can come to the table with is a symbiotic and a synergy situation where we're creating a path of art within the city. We're creating a gathering place for people to come to so that they know and recognize Winter Park as a city of arts and culture.
Thank you so much for that speech. The next question is going to go first to Commissioner Cruzada. Name a strength, a weakness, an opportunity, and a threat to Winter Park.
Okay.
Mhm.
The strength is our nonprofit institutions. between the museums, the Morse Museum, Edith Bush Foundation, Rollins College. Um, it amazes me how many people come forward out of the blue to be able to support the city whenever we have an issue. Our weaknesses, the overdevelopment of the surrounding areas. Orange County and other jurisdictions are building sky high, and they're not really caring about traffic. They're not really caring about their residents as much. And as that happens, more of their residents use our parks, use our facilities, come to our downtown area. And so it kind of dilutes what we have for our residents. Our opportunities, again, I would say it would be our nonprofits. They do a lot with the city in helping planning a lot of our events, the chamber with our parade, a few other organizations with the St. Patrick's Day parade. It is a coming together of these different organizations and people that are nonprofits that are willing to spend their time to make Winter Park a lot more homey, I guess you could say. And then threats, I would say everybody that's wanting to try to be like Winter Park. So in last week's OBJ, I'm not sure if anybody read the headline. It was the fact that Magnolia Avenue in downtown Orlando could be the next Park Avenue. And so around the region, we have become known as the premier urban village. But I'm often reminded Winter Garden, Lake Nona, Maitland, or Lake Mary, or Longwood, they're trying to catch us. But I think the most important aspect of why we're succeeding is our nonprofit institution. So, it is a threat. We have to be very aware of it, that it can detract from our brand. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is going to be Mr. Vermuth.
Sure. I'll start with strength. I think, we're so fortunate as a city to have an incredible group of business leaders, educators, other professionals that live here, right here within the city, and they care about this city and they love this city. So the opportunity is, or not go into that opportunity, sorry. The strength there is that, we have these people as resources to serve on city boards, to get their expertise when we're contemplating new development. We have, we can lean on folks for public-private partnerships. I do government affairs work all around the country, and I see it so often that the business leaders will lift up the community and build a park on their own, or build new playing fields, or resurface the playing fields. And I don't see a lot of that in Winter Park for as many business leaders as we have here. And I'd like to mine down on that and see why that's the case. But I think that's a huge strength of ours to have them here. The opportunity on the campaign trail, I've talked to so many people in my station of life, that are raising young families, and they just don't know what city government does. They don't know, they couldn't name one commissioner of ours. And so I think, the opportunity there is to get more people engaged in the process. And I think with all those voices heard, city government can be better. And I think the weakness is, really as a result of that opportunity, I think that, we have people in leadership that govern for the few. And so I was really surprised to hear that 4 out of 10 children in Winter Park qualify for free or reduced lunch. That was really surprising in an affluent city like ours.
Just a reminder to, when you see that stop sign, just keep it winding.
Sorry.
You're good.
I'll behave, I promise.
Okay, the last speech is going to go to Commissioner-elect Lindsey.
Thank you. I mean, Winter Park has so many strengths, but I think if you had to look at kind of a symbolic strength, I think it's the kind of the triangle of our the beauty of Park Avenue District, Hannibal Square, and Rollins. Again, our strength is our people, but that sort of symbolizes kind of the origin of the city. Loren Chase, when he founded the city back in the 1880s, he wanted it to be a walking city. And for the most part, he wanted to have a kind of a New England flair to it. So I think that that sort of radiates the charm and the beauty of Winter Park. In terms of weaknesses, going to that, I think that we can always be better, and we always have to be vigilant to do that. I think we have to support our schools. You know, we have 3 public schools in Winter Park. You know, Winter Park and Brookshire are both consistently A schools. Lakemont goes between A and B, and I think that we nothing is acceptable other than all of our schools, both our public schools and our private schools, are superlative in that they're A schools. I think that the weaknesses that we have to look at right now are because Winter Park is getting older in terms of some of the infrastructure that I talked about. I think we have to address the things that Kris and Justin talked about in terms of the roads getting old, and we have to address issues of sewer versus septic tanks. And we have to also look at ways to keep our utility rates low. And we're fortunate because we have the lowest utility rates just about of any municipality in the state of Florida. But I think Winter Park is very strong. And going back to the opportunities is to engage our citizens, get them more involved, and be sure that we serve them better.
Thank you so much. So this next question is going to go back to Commissioner-elect Lindsey. So what is your position on the recently passed camping ban in Ordinance 332224 as it relates and affects the city of Winter Park and its residents?
Great question. I mean, I think that if you heard the recent comments of our excellent chief of police, you know, Winter Park is a city that cares about people. Winter Park is a kind city. And I think that Winter Park police have publicly said that we don't have, I don't think, that much of a significant homeless population in Winter Park. But for those that do, the Winter Park Police, I'm very proud of the Winter Park Police, are taking a position trying to seek comfort and aid and services for disadvantaged people that unfortunately don't have a place to stay. I know a lot of the Winter Park residents are members of the Coalition for the Homeless and other social service agencies and things like that. We don't have, because we're a local government, we can't override state laws like the state law that she just talked about. We can't be compassionate and practical in our approach in dealing with it.
Thank you, Commissioner-elect, for that response. This next question is going to go to Commissioner Cruzada.
Thank you very much. So homelessness in camping, clearly the state has preempted local rule and what we can do. But what we can do is treat them with the dignity, homelessness, and the homeless people with dignity and respect. A lot of the situations with homelessness and their instability are from circumstances that are happening to them, that they need social services, they need to be put in touch with a social resource that can help stabilize them. And so with what Chief Fulkerson's doing, it's interesting. He has 2 or 3 officers that have a pickup truck that when they find somebody in a homelessness situation, will encourage them to go to social services and then take all their belongings with them. Because they have a lot of belongings that they're attached to. So sometimes they won't want to leave a park bench or won't want to leave a shopping cart because that's all they have. And so taking the approach of giving them dignity, giving them the opportunity to go seek social services, I think it's a great way to be able to make sure that homeless people find a place where they can recover and then also become stabilized.
Thank you, Commissioner. The final response to this question will go to Mr. Vermuth.
Yes, thank you. So I think our lead chief, as he alluded to, and he doesn't have many options here. It's the law now, so he has to enforce it. I think where he has done a great job is they have an event upcoming to to help some of these folks that are without a home to be able to educate them on some of the resources that are available in the community. And there are a lot of them, not so much here within the city limits, but we do have a lot of resources as the residents that live here. So there's an opportunity to do some fundraising and I think help. But we got the Christian Service Center, Coalition for the Homeless, Flick Charities, number of food pantries around. So there are a lot of great organizations that are in the community that want to help. Commissioner Russell's organization as well. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. But there are. So I think we just need to work hard to educate them before really our police force has no choice but to enforce the law.
Thank you for that final speech. The next question is going to go to Mr. Vermuth. Recently, longtime businesses across Lake Ivanhoe have been adversely affected by infrastructure renovations, causing some to go out of business. How will you ensure that small businesses in the Winter Park District will not suffer the same fate as the Park Avenue refresh project goes forward?
Yeah, so I think we need to be deliberate and intentional about how we roll that out, and it's perfectly normal to support businesses, financially if you're negatively impacting them. I saw it downtown. There was a scaffolding on SunTrust building that collapsed, and it pretty much shut down Church Street, and all those businesses were compensated for the loss that they incurred, and so think as a city government, in many aspects of what we do not want to be putting small businesses out of business. That's the lifeblood of our community. I found that, many people that have small businesses here actually live in the community. So you're not only hurting businesses, you're hurting our residents. And that's the last thing we want to do as a city.
Thank you for that speech. The next speech is going to go to Commissioner-elect Lindsey.
I think part of the problem with the Lake Ivanhoe project, I go downtown at least 3 or 4 times a week and I had to navigate that, is for some unknown reason that project lingered. It was, I think, I don't know who was to blame for that, but I think that for any project that affects Winter Park, I think it's the duty of the city to make sure that the project moves along and gets completed on a quicker basis. Because I think that that was one of the main things that was cited with the Lake Ivanhoe project. I think that we have a duty we have wonderful, wonderful businesses in Winter Park, and we have to support them in any way we can, including doing everything we can during construction projects to provide access to those businesses and to help them in any way we can. There's a border between what government can do in certain situations, but I think that we should do everything we can to help them make it through any kind of construction projects or disruption of their business activities.
Thank you for that speech. The last opportunity will go to Commissioner Cruzada.
Thank you very much. So in the Park Avenue refresh, on Park Avenue, there is a Main Street community organization called the Park Avenue Merchants District. Karina Sexton is the executive director, and I would propose working with the Park Avenue Merchant District as well as the merchants and effectively communicate what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, so that their disruption of their business is not disturbed. Delivering of inventory items, opening up and closing of their business, having patrons go in and out, not be disturbed from construction materials or dust. That has to be communicated so that at least the business can prepare for whatever comes when the construction of the refresh starts.
Thank you, Commissioner. So this question is also going to go back to you for this beginning of this question. So safety is important to every one of us. From a student's perspective, one of the biggest things we want is for our schools to be safe. As a consensus, we feel safer with police officers on our campuses. What is your position on the funding of SROs?
I'm in agreement with it. I know that our city manager has been working with Orange County Public Schools to finalize the SRO, salary range that they will be paid. So that City of Winter Park police officers can be in Winter Park High School, Lakeland Elementary, and Berkshire, and the Winter Park Ninth Grade Center. So I'm supportive of it. Any safety that local police department can add to a school by just being present is worth it.
Thank you. This next one's going to go to Mr. Vermuth.
Sign the deal. I don't know why it's taken this long. The OCPS is proposing a 25% raise to the reimbursement for SROs. If you look at the last 2 years, educators, support folks in schools have gotten an 11% raise. I think it's more than fair. If that doesn't cover the full cost of an SRO, again, I've read 267 pages of the city budget. We can find that extra 10,000 or whatever it's going to take to reimburse. We spend money on many other things that would be much better spent, and we shouldn't compromise on the safety of our children and of our teachers. My three are back there now, and there's this doesn't get resolved. This is a big issue for me and a frustrating issue for me, and I feel like it should have been resolved already.
Thank you. It's now going to go to Commissioner-elect Lindsey.
Yes, thank you. There's no substitute for SROs. We have to have SROs in our school. Private security guards would not be adequate to do that. And I think that under Mayor DeCicio's leadership, I think she's going to strike a fair bargain to make sure that we have SROs in our schools without any interruption to that. I think that her concerns are valid because she wants to make sure that because she wants to protect the financial interests of the city and our citizens, that she's insisting that that Winter Park not have to pay more than what we should have to pay and not less than what we should have to pay. And so, I applaud the mayor in her efforts to do that. SROs are very important for our children because they, I think, will instill respect for law enforcement, respect for authority. At the most recent State of the City address, a very deserving City of Winter Park police officer got the Police Officer of the Year award, and in large part because of the trust that he had built up during his relationship with different students at Winter Park High School. So I agree with both Kris and Justin that there's no substitute for SROs. We have to get them in our school without any interruption.
Thank you for those speeches. Just a quick heads up, after this last question, we are going to be moving to a 5-minute break where we're going to be collecting those little note cards that we gave you guys. So if you have any last minute questions you want to write down, there are pens all over the room, so feel free to do that. This last question is going to go first to Commissioner-elect Lindsey. Many cities around the U.S. have adopted single-member voting districts. Do you believe that Winter Park should transition to a single-member district system, or do you support keeping the current at-large system?
Another great question. I mean, I think that there was talk about that in the past because I think that there was talk about kind of a disenfranchisement of certain minority areas of the city. West Side, did not have a representative. I right now think that the way we have it seems to be doing a good job, but I think it's something that we should explore, we should look at, and we should seek the input of the citizens as to whether or not we want to do that. One of the things that was similar to that several years ago, it used to be that the mayor would appoint all of the individuals on the various very important boards in the city. And there was a vote that was taken and was passed that now the mayor appoints 3 members of the board, and then each of the 4 city commissioners appoints 1. And there's a sort of an analogy to that, and maybe going to different districts that are represented by a single commissioner. But I think that would be a theory and something that should be talked about, and we should seek some more input from our citizens on it.
Thank you. The next speech is going to go to Mr. Vermuth.
Thank you. It's definitely something we could talk about. You look at our city, we have 30,000 residents. You look at our city commission, the majority have full-time jobs, and the city commission is uh, uh, at least part-time. It's a well, at least it's another full-time job, but as I'm learning, but you know, think that it would allow commissioners to be more specialized in their districts. So when they sit up on the dais, they will know their districts, and hopefully they can educate the others. What are the problems? What are the hot button issues? And so I think there are some opportunities there to have a discussion about that, and there's definitely pluses and minuses to everything, but um, the discussion needs to take place because I believe there are some positives for the city and for the residents.
Thank you. The last speech is going to go to Commissioner Cruzada.
So in examining this question, I'm often um, I'm often reminded of the different sections of Winter Park that have different interests, and then how certain districts have a larger tax base and contribute more in dollars than other districts, that it can become weaponized on the dais. And that's what I'm afraid of when it comes to having single member districts, is that somebody from the west side, somebody from the east side, somebody from the north side or south side will say, well, I want this for my district because we have this base in our district, and we raise this much money that goes into the coffers of the city. Um, Winter Park is a small enough city that you can walk every neighborhood, and we're so interconnected with elementary schools and high schools. I can't tell you how many neighbors that I've met that are like, oh, second generation, third generation. Like, I've met some of Justin's supporters that go to Brookshire, and I went to Brookshire as a kid, but it's all neighborly. So you can get through issues in other districts by getting to neighbors and your kids, friends throughout this city. 33,000 residents, 22,000 that could register to vote, 11,000 that are registered to vote, and 7,000 that are the super voters. You can walk 200 homes in 3 hours and canvass. It's very doable. I would say keep it district wide, because how am I going to know what's affecting Lake Bell and Lake Killarney if I'm just going to rely on just somebody that sits next to me and says, well, I represent this district? Sometimes we actually need to talk to our neighbors in those districts and in those neighborhoods to know exactly what they're feeling and exactly what they're going through.
Thank you so much for those responses. We're going to move to a 5-minute break for the candidates, and now we're going to be collecting your cards. If you didn't get a card when you entered, we'll have this opportunity so you guys can write down any questions that you guys want to ask. We'll reconvene in
I know. The break has now ended. If everyone could return to their seats, that would be great. Okay, so now we're moving on from pre-prepared questions to audience-based questions. So just in the interest of time, we are no longer going to be doing 2-minute responses, but instead only 1-minute responses. I'm going to call up 2 members from the board that are going to be asking these questions.
Hi, I'm Sophia Senef, and I'm on the board of the Youth City Council.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Netto, and I'm also on the youth board of the Youth City Council.
And today we're going to be asking audience-based questions. And yeah. Okay. Commissioner Cruzada, okay. What do you think of Rollins workforce housing? Do you approve of its passage? Why?
Yes, so we were a part of that process when I was on the dais. Um, uh, I think the issues that came before the city um, occurred because of maybe the size and the amount of parking and surrounding residents that were concerned about the the level of density that was there. Um, I was glad to see that Rollins worked with us to reduce density down to, I think, in the 30s. I look forward to seeing it built and helping out the faculty and staff of Rollins because I know that it has been a big issue for a lot of their staff to commute from the periphery in. Their teaching style is small classes, and their professors are readily available to their students. So hopefully, it helps to promote that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Mouth. Mood.
Vermuth.
Sorry.
Right. Um, y- yes. So we have a great product here in Winter Park, as I had mentioned before. I think the median home price is nearing 500,000 to be able to live in the city. And so, if you're a Rollins professor or assistant professor, you may or may not be making enough to be able to buy a house here. And so, I think there is some value to I know there is some value to have educators that live in our community, understand the needs of our community, and are educating the next generation based on that knowledge. So I think it's a great thing, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Lindsey.
Yes, I was, well, the Planning and Zoning Board was very involved with that. And I think that that was a victory for the city, victory for the residents, and victory for Rollins. What they did is, they were developing an area off of Old England, not on the campus of Rollins. And it started out as a pretty large project, but Rollins very conscientiously and very constructively agreed to reduce the density, to increase the parking. And finally, they actually agreed to, even though they're a nonprofit, in that they have the ability to seek a waiver of ad valorem taxes. You know, they were great community members, and they agreed to voluntarily, if they seek a waiver of ad valorem tax payments, that they've agreed to pay a significant amount of taxes to the city. So I thought that was a collaborative, very positive, and very constructive for both Rollins and for the city and for our citizens.
Okay, this next question goes back to Commissioner Lindsey. What is your position on the referendum of the gas-powered leaf blowers?
That is a hard question. I think I have my personal opinions about that. I think that I'm not going to share my personal opinions because I don't want to color the, what the citizens are going to vote on that on March 11th. I think there's very good arguments both ways, and it's a very kind of a hot topic in everything. But I see arguments on both sides. I know how I'm going to vote, but I don't again want to taint anybody else's decision on that.
Next, the question goes to Mr. Vermuth.
I don't have the liberty of um, soon to be Commissioner Lindsey to. So I'll answer frankly. I think we should repeal the ban. It, at least now it's in the hands of the residents to determine um, the process before. I alluded before to that kind of ready, shoot, aim approach. And, I think we instituted the ban without listening to the community, without talking to the residents, without talking to the landscapers to see if it was even possible. I have family members that are landscapers, and you're working 10-hour days. Can you charge a battery enough um, to be able to service all your clients? Um, so I, I feel that we should repeal the ban, and that's how I'll vote.
Next question goes to Mr. Cruzada.
So the ballot language is yes to repeal it or no to keep it. So it's simple for everyone. Um, but on the dais, I was proponent of having the voters choose because I did hear landscapers in the business. I did hear even residents that still use gas powered blowers, even in times of um, hurricanes where you can't charge or they're without power. Um, a lot of the residents that had gas powered blowers would be able to go their entire street and help out their neighbors and blow all the leaves around. Personally, for me, it would be a yes to repeal it. I think this is one of those things where, today it's the blowers, tomorrow it's the lawnmowers, and maybe a couple of years down the road, maybe cars. If a product is made um, and brought to market and it's legal to own it, then I don't think we should interfere with that. And I hope that um, when the time comes, we can transition fully because product that's available for electric is fully operational and available to be competitive with gas.
Okay, this next question is going to start off with Mr. Vermuth. And what is your opinion on the current Historic Preservation Board dispute?
Are you talking about the recent actions?
Like changing petition. Change org position.
Absolutely. Yes, I know what you're referring to. I think it's an absolute disgrace, honestly. I think under no circumstances should we have members of city boards trespassing on people's property, yelling at them, telling them what they can or cannot do with their property. I think that originally happened on January 3rd. So, we are a month and a couple of days, and to the best of my knowledge, no action has been taken against that particular board member. And I think I think the city commission needs to investigate this and take action. I would say if true, but I've seen the videos, so I think it's hard to dispute. And so um, it's a shame that nothing has been done so far.
Okay, thank you. Now, Commissioner-elect Lindsey.
Yeah, I think it's very important on all of our boards that we show civility in how we treat each other and how we treat people that appear before the board. So, I think it definitely needs to be examined in a fair and impartial way. I think that people are entitled to property rights, and we have property rights. I think we need to examine. I know right now there's a amendment to the to an ordinance to provide more sanctions for violating rules relating to the historic preservation board areas. And I think that the ordinance as it stands right now has some major problems with it and needs to be addressed. But I agree with Justin that it needs to be looked at. It needs to be dealt with. There's no excuse or justification for anything other than civility and fair treatment of everybody that appears before any board of Winter Park.
Okay, thank you. Now, Commissioner Cruzada.
Yeah, so when you're on a citizen advisory board, there's some certain responsibilities and burdens that go along with sitting on an advisory board. One is to be able to listen. Two is to be able to communicate effectively that you're laying a somewhat of an audit trail or a communication trail so that at any time it's inspected, it'd be above board. What I've heard from city management is that there's been some type of ethics violation or complaint filed against some of the members on the historic preservation board. I believe I'm going to see what happens with that and see what roots in as far as in the investigation goes, because it would be a neutral body that could determine what the facts were, who did what. And then when the time is right, I hope there's enough information that we can discuss on the dais to find out or to determine what we should do and set a record. for future instances if this were to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question. Today, a bill to raise the homestead exemption was sent to drafting to legislator. It would raise the homestead exemption to $15,000. Do you or do you not support $75,000? Do you or do you not support this change? Yes.
I'm first.
Cruzada.
So the state does what it does, and the city does what it needs to do. There's support to have it passed at the state level, then we will have to be able to adjust our budgets accordingly. There is a sentiment in Tallahassee that there is too much money floating around in city and county coffers that they would want to reduce the amount of monies coming to us and increase that homestead exemption amount. But in light of how much inflation's been around and as well as home appreciation prices, I think it can be done in a way that at least the city can respond to it in a way that we can buffer ourselves from a budget cut if a homestead exemption of that magnitude were to pass.
Next question goes to Mr. Vermuth.
Yeah, I mean, the state's going to do what the state's going to do. I work with state legislatures around the country, and there's always the push and pull between state government and local government. So I think just as a city, I mean, we need to plan accordingly. We need to look at how many residences in the city are rented, how many actually are homestead, and it's pretty easy for us to calculate what that budget shortfall is going to be and adjust accordingly. But this is something that's very common around the country, and there's always that kind of infighting between the state and local government because politicians want control, and so I think with some good planning, we can adjust accordingly to it.
Okay, thank you. The next question goes to Commissioner-elect Lindsey.
Like they both said, we don't have any control. The city of Winter Park has no control over decisions like that. So we will have to budget for it. Fortunately, because Winter Park is a very popular place to live, we have very healthy real estate market. We have healthy appreciation of property values. Hopefully, we will be able to not be adversely affected by that. But as they said, we need to budget accordingly whenever there's any type of change in the law that affects our revenue source.
Thank you. Now we'll hand off the mic to Jack for a few closing statements.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jack Nave. I'm the treasurer. I'm on the board of the Winter Park Youth City Council. I thank everyone who is here today for coming to this forum. As you know, we're a relatively new council, so just being here is supporting us greatly. And also, I'd like to thank the three people that we have here, Commissioner Cruzada, Mr. Vermuth, Commissioner-elect Lindsey, for all coming and being interested and showing interest in this forum. So as you know, as we explained at the beginning, you will now have a 2-minute closing statement. So it's similar to the opening statement you gave at the beginning, but just summarize or whatever you'd like to do in that 2 minutes. We'll start with Commissioner Cruzada.
I went first the last time, so I think it would be somebody else that goes.
All right, I was just going to go down like in the order of the opening statement. That's fine. We can start with Commissioner-elect Lindsey.
I don't know.
First of all, thank you very much for the youth group that invited Kris and Justin and me here today. You all are the future of the city, but the future of everything. So thank you all very, very much. You all ask great, really, really good questions, which shows that you are engaged in the community and you know what the issues are. So they were terrific, questions. I think that Winter Park is a treasure, and any treasure you have to be very, very vigilant to protect it. We can never rest on our laurels. We always have to improve. We have to look at ways that we can do things better. I think we have to, because it's money and the cost of living. I think it's important for us to make sure that we're making proper fiscal decisions. That we always have to be looking at those things. Winter Park is a walking city. It's a city of park. It's a city of lakes. It's a city of culture. It's a city of art, and most importantly, it's a city of wonderful, wonderful people. In terms when I was running, and since I've become involved in city matters, I'm just thrilled by the level of participation, enthusiasm, dedication, and passion that that people in the city show in terms of their involvement on boards, in charitable activities, how we treat each other. Winter Park is a great place to live, to work, and to raise our families. And when I'm city commissioner, if you see that you have suggestions for me, if you see that I should be doing something better or different, I welcome you to call me on my cell phone. And thank you again very much, the youth people that brought us here today.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner-elect Lindsey. It's now going to go to Mr. Vermuth for a closing statement.
Wonderful. Thank you. I've talked to many people in the community in similar stations of life, raising young families who've said they want to run for city commission. They'll be watching this race closely, they said, to see if a person like me, a person like them, can break through. I'm not a politician. I'm just a husband, a father, a friend, and a neighbor who loves this city and will always work hard to do the best for it. The bad part about elections is we all get busy and sometimes we don't research the candidates we vote for. And, I think all of us are guilty of that. The good part about elections is that at the end of the term, that politician has a voting record. And so we can look at the things that they voted for and decide if that aligns with the things that are important to us. Is that important to our values? It's a report card, of sorts. And so I hope at the end of 3 years you will evaluate me the same way as you should my opponents. And I urge you to look at the issues. When you hear that the budget is we are fiscally sound, I know it's voluminous, but you should look at it. I mean, we've spent every dollar that we've taken in the last 2 years. The year before that, we operated at a deficit. So I don't know how we can say we are fiscally sound. If you look at the 10-year pro forma, we are at the end of the 10 years, our reserves are going to be 13% if we trend that way. The only way to solve that is a tax increase. So, I think it's one thing to hear things, but I urge you to do the research. I have no doubt the folks, definitely the young people in this room, will do that based on your questions. And I hope that you will have the opportunity to evaluate me at the end of 3 years. I thank you so much for the invite, and vote Justin Vermuth for Winter Park City Commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lastly, we're going to go to Commissioner Cruzada.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the Winter Park Youth City Council for hosting this. Did a great job. Give yourself a round of applause for all that you've done. So over the past 3 years, I've enjoyed serving all the citizens of Winter Park. I've built relationships with city staff and become more familiar with the facets of how city touches our daily life. They provide our water, they provide our electric, they provide our safety, they provide our parks. And that's a lot for a city to be able to provide for its residents. Continue my pledge to protect our physical assets and quality of life through our compliance with our comp plan, city code, future land use map, and zoning classifications. I will continue to achieve city goals for environmental protection, sustainability, resiliency, and zero carbon emissions, and maintain or increase our reserves. Mayor DeCiccio said in the State of the City last Friday that we're at 29.9% reserves, which means it's almost a third of our operational expenses put aside for emergencies. We dip into that to be able to take care of hurricane debris, to take care of natural disasters within our city. And so we are in good financial condition. We have not raised the millage rate. And if we were to raise the millage rate, just to give you a metric, raising it quarter millage rate, 0.0025, would give us an additional $2.2 million. And so I still think we can trim. I think we can budget for even doing something as drastic as raising the millage rate. I'll continue to support our arts and culture through community partnerships and focus on our infrastructure. Through the past 3 years, I've discovered in my conversations with residents old and young, Winter Parkers continuously seek to improve the city founded by Loring Chase and Oliver Chapman, while keeping the charm that attracts so many to our city. So I humbly ask to vote for me, Kris Cruzada, and re-elect me to the City Commission C3. Thank you.
All right. So just give everyone up here a huge round of applause. I'll let Commissioner Russell say a few things before we end.
I don't think we gave the reception for these kids like they truly deserve. I'm going to frame something for everybody really quick. Is that a couple months ago, full transparency, I'm Craig Russell. I'm the high school club sponsor of the Youth City Council. And a couple months ago, I had a collection of kids come up and say, "Hey, how do we get involved? I see your, what is it you do?" So I explained to them, and the eagerness, the hunger, the knowledge, the smarts, the savvy, the interest was like nothing I ever seen before. Not nothing at all when I was that age. So these questions are from them and their peers. The interest is from them and their peers. And this entire operation and their want to is from this group and their peers. So just let's all take a quick second to really show appreciation for these young people. That being said, gentlemen, they thank you. We all thank you as a city. I'm proud of these kids. I can't say it well enough. And so good luck to all, and to all a good night.
And one quick thing before everyone leaves. On every other seat, there is a QR code for a link to a youth survey, and we would really, really appreciate that if you would fill that out before heading on your way.